namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Please join me, I need to hear you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you. Today's topic is Prashna. There are many books on Prashna. Many books. There are so many books on Prashna. Prashna is a topic in Jyotish which is based upon a person making a query about something. And the standard Jyotish literature has so many books on this that even if you spend one lifetime, you would not be able to go through the whole lot. So you realize the importance of the tradition or the parampara in this learning, because the parampara gives you a set of simple rules, a set of simple principles which you can just apply and it works all the time. It's important to understand these principles, to know why they work and how they work. Once you get to know the why and how of these principles, then you will be able to do any Prashna chart and your predictions will be 100% right all the time, because you understood why it is happening. So the definition of a Prashna, I have given certain definitions. Now a Prashna or a query has two things. One, the person who is asking the Prashna must have a desire to know about something. And two, there is an intention behind that. Every person who wants to know about something always does so because of an intention. And a good astrologer must know both the things. One, whether the desire to know is genuine, and two, whether the intention is right or wrong. If somebody has a bad intention, you should not be supporting such a Prashna. You should have the courage to say, I don't think the stars are giving clear indications. You can be a bit diplomatic and tell them, I don't think the stars are giving clear indications, so come again maybe. The question is, how do we know that the mind of the querist, the desire is genuine? Number one, he could be fooling you, he could be playing with you, he could be wasting your time. How do you know that the desire is genuine and that the intention is good? Do you have any foolproof method for this? How do you know that somebody who is asking about something is making a genuine question? The genuineness is seen from the first house. We draw a chart for the moment of the query, and to find out whether the query is genuine or not, we see the first house. We studied the first house. If the first house has sattva guna in it, I use the word very carefully, sattva guna, more of truth force, then the genuine desire is there to know. If there is rajas, then also the desire is genuine. But if it is tamas, then the desire is not genuine. He has come with an intent to either harm you or to harm the subject, or for some other reason which you don't understand. Okay? In such cases, don't answer the query. We'll do a few cases. We have to do cases for you to actually see how this works. Now the question, what moment should you take? There are many questions I've always received. Somebody sent me an email with a query. Should I take the time when the person sent the email? Or should I take the time when I open the email? Or should I take the time when I am ready to draw a chart? What is important? Any takes on this? Yeah.
I would say the time when you draw the chart.
The time when you draw the chart.
The astrologer is aware of the question.
Right. There was a time in India when they used to have kings. The king would have his messenger. The king would take some time to think of his question. He would call his writer, the writer called Kanungo. The Kanungo would note the question on a piece of cloth, roll it up. The messenger would be called. The messenger would be given the query. He would be given some gold coins for the astrologer with some gifts, and he would be dispatched to the village of the astrologer. Like my grandfather's village was 3 villages away from the king of Puri. So the messenger would come over there. And then, depending upon the circumstances where they would meet, my grandfather would start noting the nimittas or the various indications on the way. Then he would go home, and then after being seated and when he is free, he would make a chart for the moment he wishes to make the chart. If you are true inside, the moment that you wish to make the chart is the right moment for the query. The astrologer is important. You are important. You represent the voice of God. The importance of Prashna is you must realize that you as a Jyotisha are representing the voice of God. You sit in the 12th house of the Prashna, which is called the house of moksha. The astrologer sits at the door of moksha. No matter how big a saint is, he may be the greatest Shankaracharya or the greatest saint in the world. If you are a true Raj Jyotisha, you are like Ganesha sitting at the door of moksha. He will not get moksha unless you have given a clearance. That as a Jyotisha, you have been picked up by God. In Prashna, this is the first important thing to understand. Today you are a Jyotisha, then you become a Raj Jyotisha. A day will come when you will become a Daivagya. Once you become a Daivagya, then all the great saints and acharyas, they will come and show their charts to you. Because without showing their charts, and you have to be that pure to give them the right advice, pure of mind. So remember your importance in this entire process. If you are not ready to do the Prashna, don't do it. Do when you are comfortable, when you wish to do it. Follow your instincts. Am I clear on that now? So the moment of the query is the moment when the astrologer is ready to draw the chart. Okay. Having drawn the chart, the first thing is to examine the first house. The first house of the chart will always represent the questioner, the person who is making the question. Now, in that case, the example which I gave you, the king was the one who made the question and the messenger only carried the question. So, in that case, the questioner is the king. It is often possible that a blood relative, a friend, or somebody else could be making a prashna. In that case, the blood relative or the friend who is making the question is indicated by the first house. It's very important as to who is making the question. Okay? Now, if there are benefic planets in the first house, like Jupiter, Sun and Moon, which are the Sattva Guna planets? Jupiter, Sun and Moon. If we have these strong planets in the first house, then it is surely indicating that the desire to know is very genuine. If we have too much of tamasic indications, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, then the desire may not be very clear, may not be genuine. Similarly, we see the 7th house. to know the intention or the heart of the querist. What is his intention? The seventh house will tell us what the intention is, whether the intention is good, whether the intention is bad. Is he making this question for a harmful purpose? It is possible that the intention could always be, you have to see the query. For example, let's say king is asking a question as to whether he should go to war. Naturally, the intention is going to be bad. The intention of the query is whether he can defeat his enemy, kill his enemy. So, naturally, the intention is bad. So, that bad intention must show up in the seventh house. In that case, also you can give an answer. So, a lot depends upon what the question is. Okay? Yeah.
What's the difference between desire and intention?
See, a desire to know is whether somebody has come to test you. There are people who have come to make a joke of astrology, to test you. Or maybe somebody has come to your house with some other intention. You got a beautiful daughter, but he comes to show you the chart for some other reason. Right? So, what is the intention of the person? The Lagna will tell you the answer. And the seventh house, that is the desire to know. How clean is the desire to know? Whether he actually wants to know the answer or has he come for some other thing? He was just passing by and wants to chat with you, and that's why he came in and just asked a prashna. That's the first house. The seventh house is what is he going to do with this knowledge? The intention. What's he going to do with it? Is he going to take this knowledge from you and go and harm the other person? If that be so, then don't give that knowledge. You will see that this process is a bit difficult. As we do cases, you will understand it. We'll do some cases. Okay. So, the first house and the seventh house are very clear. Let us say somebody asks a question, when will my child go to school? So, the querist is in the first house, but the house which is under focus is the fifth house, because the query is regarding the child. So, then the fifth house becomes the prashna bhava. So, the prashna bhava is that house about whom the question is. If the question is about a child, then it is the fifth house. Say somebody asks, I have a younger brother and I have a lot of problems with my younger brother. What do you think is going to happen? So, then the prashna bhava is the third house, because the third house is the house of focus. Clear? Somebody asks, you think I have met this person, you think I could end up marrying the person? The prashna bhava is which house? Seventh house, not the fifth house? Seventh house, right. Be clear on this. Be very clear. Okay? Which house? Because the question was about marriage, not just a love affair. Examine the question very carefully and determine the prashna bhava. Once you get the houses right, your reading will be right. Okay. Next. Every question has a karaka. Have you heard of karakas? You have all heard of karakas or significators in Jyotish. Let's say somebody says, when my father is sick, will he become okay? So, now I want you to identify for me the prashna bhava. Ninth house. Father. Father is sick. So, the question, the person is thinking about father. Ninth house. Prashna bhava. The topic of the prashna? Sickness. So, which is the karaka for sickness? Which planet indicates sickness? Saturn. Right. So, we have to identify the prashna bhava and the karaka. Now comes the first principle from the tradition. If the karaka has an association with the prashna bhava, blindly say that it will be fulfilled. Blindly, don't do any further calculation. Just say it will happen. Pardon? If the karaka, see, we identified two things, the prashna bhava and the karaka. Right? if the Karaka has any association like an aspect, aspect is Rashi Drishti again, with the Prashna Bhava, then blindly say that the question will be fulfilled. Give a positive answer. It will happen. Be confident that it will happen. Don't worry, it will happen. See what a simple principle? Yeah.
What kind of aspect are you using? Are you using regular Parasara or are you using Tajika?
Tajaka. No, this entire thing that I am teaching now, nice question, is Parashara. I am teaching from the tradition of Jyotish, which is Parashara, Jaimini and that line. Okay? So when we talk of aspects, aspects are of two kinds. One is Rashi Drishti, or the aspect of the signs, and one is Graha Drishti, or the aspect of the planets. Are you, yeah, freedom.
I'm just having a question on that, the dictum.
Yeah.
And it's something that's happened to me a few times and confused me. It's like you said, so, like let's say someone says, is my father going to get healthy?
Yeah.
And so we look at the ninth house and we see that Saturn is connected with it. Now the answer blindly is yes, but so does that mean, but it's Saturn, the karaka of sickness. So we blindly say yes that he is going to get healthy?
Yeah, he is going to get healthy.
It's yes to the question.
No. He is going to get healthy. If the Karaka is looking at the Prashna Bhava, that means that thing is going to improve. The health is going to, the disease is going.
Even though it's a negative planet.
Forget, see, that's, you applying your rules. See the principle. Now you are applying your rules. You are telling that Saturn is looking at the house, let's say ninth house. Saturn is looking at the ninth house. So the person is worried about disease, and so the disease is supposed to increase, right? According to your logic, because Saturn is the cause of disease. But no, the first principle of the tradition says that if the Karaka is looking at, the Karaka of the Prashna is looking at the ninth house, and the question was about sickness of the father, then be sure that the sickness is going. Yeah.
Well, if it was phrased the way that Freedom said, is your father going to get well, wouldn't the Karaka be Jupiter because it's about healing?
No, disease is Saturn. Disease, the Karaka is Saturn. Be very clear of the principal Karakas. And forget the phrase in the question. The question could be phrased in very different ways. Don't get into those grammar. Because it could be possible, you think my father will get well, you think my father's health will improve, you think my father could go in for another operation and then he'll be okay. It could be all kinds of questions. Don't get into the grammar. Be very clear on two things. One, who is the significator for the subject, and two, which is the house. If the significator and the house have a yoga, it will happen. Yeah.
So can you say the Karaka is always positive for that particular house?
Yes. The Karaka is the most important planet. The Karaka is the most important planet. If the Karaka is looking at the Prashna Bhava, if the Karaka is looking at the Lagna, it will happen.
So it's basically giving us a positive or a negative.
Yes, that is very important. Till now, you have heard answers like, it may happen, he could get well. That is, he could die and come back to life, or maybe he could come back to life and die. Everybody dies. What are you saying? I want you to give answers like the person who is asking you the query wants a yes or a no. So it's time you guys gave yes or no answers. Yeah. Let's say you have an aspect from all the planets. No problems. Is Saturn aspecting? Yes. So say yes. Don't worry. Yeah.
If it shows only aspected or in the Baba as a planet?
Also association, I said. Sambandha. Okay. If the Lord of the first house is in the Karaka Bhava, then also it is positive. Means Sambandha. When I am talking of Sambandha, I am talking of the four kinds of relationships. Right? There must be a Sambandha between the Karaka and the Bhava, or the Karya and the Lagna. That is the Lagna and the Karya Bhava is having a Sambandha. That is the relationship between the house and the ascendant. also then it will be positive. We'll do some cases, you will see. Unless you do some case studies, I believe nobody ever learns. I could keep teaching this theory again and again. And this is one and the most important principle. Okay, could we go up?